UFC 282 is a few days away. I'm recording this. It's Thursday. We are exactly an hour and a half away from the press conference, and I really hope that it delivers because ever since Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira were pulled off of this card, I have lost a little bit of hype, and I know that the main card is still stacked. The prelims are stacked, but I'm really hoping that this press conference delivers so that by the time Saturday rolls around, I can be itching to watch these fights again. I will be driving all day on Saturday, but thankfully I'm on the East Coast, so when I actually get to where I am going, I'll be able to relax, and the prelims, the early prelims, should be starting, and I can't wait. So anyway, I'm going to break down every single fight and give my prediction for every single fight. I've made my longer videos for the Darren Till fight, the main event, Paddy Pimblett fight, but I'm going to give my predictions for every other fight on the card. And let's be honest, I don't really know too much about some of these guys. I'll be real, and I'm never going to pretend to know more about a fighter than I do. So Cameron Saman, Steven Kozlau, both of these guys are very young. Now, I'm surprised because Steven Kozlau looks like he's, 35, but he was born in 1997. He's a pretty young guy. He's 6-0, and what do you know? Cameron Saman is also 6-0. I also know that he trains with Dricus to Plessis, but other than that, I haven't really seen either of these guys fight. Steven Kozlau's nickname is The Pillow. I guess he puts a lot of people to sleep because his style is a grappling style. That's what he likes doing, and Cameron Saman likes to strike. Who am I going to pick? I'll go with Cameron Saman by process of elimination due to training with Dricus to Plessis, someone that I know, but this is not a really educated pick, I'll be honest. The same thing for Vinicius Salvador and Daniel De Silva. I'll go with Daniel De Silva, but it's not an educated pick, and TJ Brown and Eric Silva, I'll go with TJ Brown. I'm sorry, guys. I really don't know much about them, but let's get to the good stuff. Billy Quarantillo, Alexander Hernandez. I can't wait for this because Alexander Hernandez's last fight was in 2021. It was at the MSG card, I believe. It was the Usman Covington card, and he fought Shane Burgos. And this was directly after Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. And despite how amazing of a fight Billy Quarantillo and Shane Burgos was, it never got the respect that it deserved. I've never heard any MMA media members even talk about how amazing of a fight that was because, and I'll be honest, I felt the same way while watching it. It was just kind of impossible to really be that amped up because your dopamine levels right before for Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler were spiked into another fucking universe. So, we were having a bit of a withdrawal, and watching Billy Quarantillo and Shane Burgos, that was a masterpiece. And if you look at the significant strikes numbers, Billy Quarantillo has way better significant strikes stats than Alexander Hernandez. A big part of that must be his fight with Shane Burgos because both of those guys landed a lot. But I know that Billy Quarantillo is going to be the slicker striker. I think he's a little more talented on the feet, and Alexander Hernandez has had a rough time every time he's taken a step up in competition now. He started his career at lightweight, and when he tried to step up in competition, he's failed pretty much every time. Against Renato Moicano, he got choked out in his last fight when he fought Thiago Moises, and Thiago Moises is a little bit overrated. He got beat by Thiago Moises by decision. He got knocked out by Cowboy. So he had an explosive start to his career, but then it started going downhill. Billy Quarantillo, I feel like we haven't really seen his career get to flourish yet. And Shane Burgos, I know he's not in the UFC anymore, but he was one of the better strikers in the featherweight division. A very talented fighter. Maybe not a fighter that could be in the top 8, but a fighter that was worthy of being ranked. And, Billy Quarantillo gave Shane Burgos a really tough fight. And I think he's just going to be able to break Alexander Hernandez. Alexander Hernandez has always had a questionable gas tank. He's a big, powerful guy. He has the ability to take you down, but can that last for 15 minutes? I don't think so. It seems like he has a lot of lactic acid buildup. He's a very heavily muscled guy for the featherweight division, and it's easy for those guys to get a little bit tired. They blow their wad early, and Billy Quarantillo seems to be built for, the long run, the long haul, going to decisions. So ultimately, I'm going to go with Billy Quarantillo. I'm going to pick him to win by decision. I'll also be rooting for him, to be honest. This could be his coming out party. If he gets a finish over Alexander Hernandez, that would be big for him. Moving on up the card, Chris Curtis, Joaquin Buckley. Who doesn't want to see this? Chris Curtis, big power in his hands, and Joaquin Buckley, big power in his hands. Now, Joaquin Buckley is like a poor man's MMA Mike Tyson. And if I'm going to be honest, Chris Curtis is also someone who doesn't have the best skill set. Like, I really think he was exposed by Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson got outstruck by Marvin Mediocre Vittori, right? Who is by no means someone who's a great striker. And Jack Hermanson was outstruck by him. And man, I mean, that was a god-awful performance. But he was able to make Chris Curtis look stupid on the feet. These guys fought at UFC London, and Jack Hermanson absolutely outclassed him. Just beat his ass. Didn't really hurt him that badly because we know Jack Hermanson doesn't really have any finishing power. He's kind of got pillow hands, and he throws a lot of kicks, right? And he doesn't really go for the head all that often. He was just able to stay out of range of Chris Curtis, and Chris Curtis was swinging big and missing. And to be honest, that kind of exposed him a little bit, in my opinion. Now, we've seen Chris Curtis knock out some tough guys like Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes was finished by Roman Dolidze, about a month ago. But to be honest, if he didn't hurt his leg, I think I may have even favored him to beat Roman Dolidze. He always looks good early on in his fights. He's also had a rough time. But, man, Chris Curtis, both of these guys aren't that great, technically. Joaquin Buckley fought Nassourdine Imavov in France, and that was a phenomenal fight. Joaquin Buckley, actually, despite being the smaller man, I mean, he's pretty jacked, but he's very short, and Imavov is a big middleweight. Joaquin Buckley lasted much longer than him and was able to gas out Imavov and start to really pour it on him in the third round. He was able to steal that round. That impressed me a lot, but I've also seen Joaquin Buckley get knocked out. I've seen him get finished. He has one of those most impressive KOs I've ever seen, but I think both of these guys have about the same skill level. I think Chris Curtis may be the better technical boxer, but I think Joaquin Buckley is the better all-around mixed martial artist. I think he has the ability to go to the ground, right? We've seen him take out some guys on the ground as well, at least in decisions. And I'll go with Joaquin Buckley. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I don't think he's going to get knocked out here. But again, one of the reasons why I'm so excited to see this fight is because we just know that someone could get knocked out. But I think these guys are going to play it a little bit safe. I don't think these guys are going to go to war. I mean, I feel like we're always thinking these kinds of matchups are going to, be absolute fireworks, and they never really quite live up. I don't think this is going to live up to the hype. However, one of these guys could get slept. And what I mean by that is this. I don't think this is going to be an absolute brawl. I think if someone's getting knocked out, it'll come in an exchange that's few and far in between. I'll think like maybe out of nowhere, one of these guys is going to get knocked out. But I don't think they're going to be brawling for 8 minutes, just landing big shots on each other, going at each other nonstop, and then finally one of them gets a KO. I think it'll be a little bit more of a technical match. But, regardless of who wins this, these guys are not going to be in the upper echelon of the middleweight division. They're just not. I really don't think they are. But I'm going to go with Joaquin Buckley. And honestly, guys, I'm going to pick Joaquin Buckley by decision. Edmen Shahbazyan versus Dalcha Lungiambula. I've seen Lungiambula get head kicked a bunch of times by Magomed and Ankalaev now, leading up to Magomed's fights. They always use that KO as a promoting fight. But Edmen Shahbazyan has had quite the rough run. Right, he was beaten by Imavov, finished by Imavov, I believed. Beaten by Jack Hermanson, finished by Derek Brunson. So I think he's lost 3 in a row. He's still pretty young. He's taken a lot of time off. But man, you got to look at that fight against him and Brad Tavares. He fucking finished Brad Tavares in the first round, made him look easy. I mean, was that just a one-off? It may have been. But I think that if you look and you compare his previous opponents to Dalcha Lungiambula, I think that his previous opponents are much better. And he actually had some good moments against Derek Brunson. He actually had some good moments against Jack Hermanson. In his last fight, he didn't look so good against Nasruddin Imavov. But I trust in Edmen Shahbazyan to get this one done. If he loses this, I think the UFC is going to cut him. I just think he's a little more talented. Dalcha Lungiambula is a big power puncher. Just look at the guy, he's jacked. But I think that Edmen Shahbazyan is going to be able to outclass him. And you know what? I think Edmen Shahbazyan may even be able to knock him out. So I'll go with a knockout for Edmen Shahbazyan. Jarzinho, Rozenstruik, and Chris Daukaus. Man, what are you doing in the heavyweight division, Chris Daukaus? It's time to move down to middleweight. This photo is actually flattering for Chris Daukaus because he doesn't look this good in real life. Let's be honest. I don't know how they touched it up. If they got him under the perfect lighting, it looks like he's pulling a vacuum. He looks like he's sucking in that stomach. But whenever I see Chris Daukaus in the cage, he looks puny. He's a puny guy for the heavyweight division. I mean, compare him to Jarzinho Rozenstruik. Both of these guys have body fat on them. But Jarzinho Rozenstruik is like kind of exploding a little bit. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of fat, but still you can see his abs popping out. He's not sucking in. His chest is popping out. He's got fucking thick arms. But Chris Daukaus, on the other hand, you look at him in his fights with Derek Lewis, and he just looks like a big flabby deflated balloon out there. And he's been getting KO'd left and right. I know he has some pretty decent hands. He has some decent boxing. But what people have ever seen in him, I remember he had hype at one time. Like, I just don't get it in the heavyweight division. He's going to get knocked out by everyone. And I think Jarzinho Rozenstruik is going to knock him out in the first or second round. Chris Daukaus, in order to actually have some success, in order to hurt his opponents at heavyweight, needs to land a good 5 shots. And Jarzinho Rozenstruik can take a couple of Chris Daukaus' shots to land one really big shot. And if I'm going to look at the heaviest punchers in the heavyweight division, I have to throw Jarzinho Rozenstruik in my top 5. I really do. Francis Ngannou's up there. I'd put Sergey Pavlovich, Derek Lewis, even Stipe, maybe even Tai Tuivasa. But I have to say that Jarzinho Rozenstruik is up there with those guys. I think he probably hits a little harder than Stipe. He may not be as technical, but he's the much better striker. And he has a long career in kickboxing. He has many kickboxing fights. And as great of a boxer as Chris Daukaus is, he's a fat 205er, maybe even a fat 185er. This guy should be fighting at 185 pounds. He's 6'3", he's tall, but he's fat, and he needs to get in shape. And as I said, look at him on the cage. Look at him in the cage when he fights Jarzinho this Saturday. I promise you, when you see him get in the cage and that fight starts and both of these guys are moving around, feeling each other out, you're going to see the flabs of Chris Daukaus. Look at his fight against Derek Lewis. Just look at his physique. And then look at how this guy fights. Maybe he's got a bit of a speed advantage, but it doesn't matter. He has no power to really back him up. And in the heavyweight division, you need that. Furthermore, man, I just don't understand it. First of all, this guy got knocked out by Derek Lewis and then fought Curtis Blades like 3 months later. He has a terrible way of managing his career. And I think that after this one, he's going to have to go down to 205. We've seen Jared Cannonier do it. Jared Cannonier started at heavyweight. Man, moved down to 205 and then went down to... Did he start at heavyweight? I think he did. And then he went down to 185. I think Chris Daukaus could do it too. Maybe he could be a jacked 185er. I think so. But I'm going to go with Jarzinho Rozenstruik. He is, it's clear as day. If there's one fight where I'll say this is guaranteed to end by a finish, it's guaranteed to go the way in which I think it'll go, it's Jarzinho Rozenstruik. The only way where Chris Daukaus can win this fight is if something fluky happens. If Jarzinho Rozenstruik takes a weird step, if someone throws something into the octagon from the crowd and he falls on it and breaks his leg, and they somehow rule that in favor of Chris Daukaus, that's the only way he wins. He has no fucking chance. Even Paddy Pimblett's opponent, Jared Gordon, has a better chance to beat Paddy Pimblett legitimately than Chris Daukaus has to beat Jarzinho Rozenstruik. Jarzinho Rozenstruik is going to knock him out in the first or second round. He's very patient, and he's pretty damn technical. He has the reach advantage. He's just the much bigger heavyweight. He's going to win this fight. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Jerry Perrin. I can't wait for this one. I can't wait. I literally cannot wait. Holy shit, this is the headline of the prelims. Good marketing by the UFC. Really good marketing by the UFC. I think Jarzinho, Rozenstruik, Chris Daukaus would have been good as well, because that's definitely going to end by a finish. But put your youngest fighter in the UFC out to headline the prelims. Good thinking by the UFC. I would think maybe they would put him at the start of the prelims. Fuck that. Maybe you guys are starting to make good decisions, because I like the layout of this card. It seems like every single fight, it seems to get better. Wow, this is a stacked prelims. Imagine being Jay Perrin. Honestly, guys, imagine being Jay Perrin. He's in his late 20s, and he's going up against the youngest fighter in the UFC in his debut. And we all know, us longtime UFC fans know, that what the UFC is doing is they're protecting the investment. This guy got a win, an impressive win on the Dana White Contender Series. He showed out his grappling. Hell, he had some really slick takedowns. He had a flying knee transitioning into a double leg takedown, a fucking beautiful, weird spinning hook kick to the face. Man, he's really impressive. And it just goes to show that a lot of young guys in MMA right now have a really well-rounded game. Maybe 10 years ago, a guy who has a grappling game wouldn't be able to strike. I mean, there are even guys like that now, like Chase Hooper. You know, a guy with a grappling-based game who can't really strike for shit. But Raul Rosas Jr., this guy has some pretty slick striking as well. Now, I think that in order for him to strike with Jay Perrin, he's going to have to take some damage, because Jay Perrin is probably going to be the better technical striker. He's probably got a little more power. I mean, you're 18 years old. You don't have that grown man strength yet. And he just turned 18 too. In September, this guy was 17 years old. But back to what I was saying originally, I mean, for Jay Perrin, you know that the UFC wants you to lose. You know that they think that you're the favorable matchup for their investment. They're protecting the investment. They're going to Jay Perrin, right? That means he is probably the least dangerous bantamweight they could have thought of to give a guy like Raul Rosas Jr. And you know that's got to be in his head. And you know the whole world kind of wants Raul Rosas Jr. to win this one. Unless you're a psychopath. I know some people are hating on this guy for his appearance or some shit. I mean, it's disgusting, by the way. But let's be honest, guys. I mean, people hating on him is disgusting, by the way. I mean, he's 18. He seems like a good kid. He's hardworking. And I want this guy to do well. I really want him to succeed. He's 6-0. He wants to be champion by the time he's 20. That's a tough task at the bantamweight division. I'm going to pick him to win. And I'm going to pick him to win by submission. I think he's going to show out. And Jay Perrin, I believe, like, this is what I saw in the Dana White Contender Series. And this is what I think is very common for guys that are fighting. Like, the guy with the UFC debut happens to be like the youngest fighter on the roster. They're going into this fight thinking, man, I know the UFC wants me to lose, but this can't be true. I've been training for longer than this kid. I'm a grown man. I'm not going to get beat by a kid. Are you kidding me? And then they get in there in the cage and they see what the hype is about, because the first couple of exchanges, if it doesn't go their way, they start to mentally break. They start to think, oh shit, like I'm getting beat up by a minor here. And I could see how tough that is. And that's what I saw in the Dana White Contender Series. Raul Rosas Jr.'s opponent, he actually looked pretty slick too, but after the first few exchanges where Raul Rosas Jr. had him on the ground, he was doing his work on him, it seemed, you could see his face, he started to look a little bit, he started to lose a little bit of motivation. I think that's what's going to happen to Jay Perrin. I think Jay Perrin's going to try to take his head off early, and I think Raul Rosas Jr. is going to have an answer for that. I think if he's going to find a way to get this to the ground, and I think maybe he'll surprise Jay Perrin, land something slick on him, and then take him down off of that and submit him. I just think that if an exchange goes poorly for Jay Perrin, I think it's going to start to seep into his mind, wait, they may have been right. This 18-year-old's better than me. And if you're a grown man who's a UFC fighter and you're getting beat by an 18-year-old kid, like, that can really fuck with your head. And if you're not having success early, it won't go well for you. So I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr., and I can't wait for this one. I can't wait for him to show out. It would be an unbelievable moment for this guy to get a finish. I'll be rooting for him. And yeah, Jay Perrin, that's got to suck, man. The whole world thinks you're going to lose. You know you're being set up for failure. He's probably training his ass off, but what if he has an adrenaline dump? Raul Rosas Jr., he's going in there to kill Jay Perrin as well. Imagine how hard he's training as well. So Bryce Mitchell, Ilia Topuria, I can't wait. I can't wait for Bryce Mitchell and Ilia Topuria. This is going to be a massive fight. I'm rooting for Bryce Mitchell, right? I actually kind of like Ilia Topuria. I love his style, but I don't really know much about the guy personally. I know he's deemed as the hand sanitizer boy by Paddy Pimblett. I know that he's, got big knockout power. I saw that beautiful knockout in London. That was his last fight where he got head kicked in the first round, dropped. I mean, that was a crazy head kick. It was similar to the combination that Leon Edwards landed on Kamaru Usman to put him out in the 5th round. He was fighting Jai Herbert in London, and I think he faked the jab too and ended up throwing the head kick, dropped Ilia Topuria. But in the 2nd round, within the 1st minute, Ilia Topuria found his range, threw a beautiful combination, and I think he ended the fight with a big right hook, but he landed a beautiful body shot, and that's what I really like about Ilia Topuria. He lands lots of body shots. He goes to the body a lot, and he's a short, stocky guy, and that really works in favor of his stature, right? He works with the fact that he's a short, stocky guy. And Bryce Mitchell, yes, he's got tremendously impressive jiu-jitsu. He is hard to manipulate on the ground. I mean, Bryce Mitchell is a phenomenal grappler. He destroyed Edson Barbosa. He even dropped Edson Barbosa. He showed a moment where he had some success on the feet, and that's attributed to the fact that Edson Barbosa had so much respect for Bryce Mitchell's ground game because he knew that it wasn't going to go so well for him on the ground. He wanted to stand up on his feet. He wanted to do everything in his power to stay on the feet, and that's what can open up a big right hand for a guy like Bryce Mitchell. That's what can open up the stand-up for such a dominant grappler. And I just don't know if Ilia Topuria has to worry about that, because I don't think he's worried about Bryce Mitchell shooting on him. Because, again, low center of gravity, phenomenal takedown defense, really good ground game as well. Ilia Topuria has 100% takedown defense. Now, I don't know who's shooting takedowns on this guy, and I think Bryce Mitchell will be able to take him down at least once, but maybe he'll just bounce right up to his feet again. And Bryce Mitchell doesn't have the best takedown. I mean, he has 52% takedown accuracy. He shoots quite a lot, but Ilia Topuria likes to shoot as well. Ilia Topuria is not afraid to wrestle. But I think that if this goes into the latter half of the 2nd and 3rd round, I think Bryce Mitchell is going to start to steal it just by the way Ilia Topuria fights. I don't know how great this guy's gas tank is going to be. He throws everything with bad intentions. He throws everything to hurt his opponent. And Bryce Mitchell, I know he has a good gas tank. I know he's got a crazy pace. So that's why I'm excited to see this, because Bryce Mitchell may just be the best grappler in that division, but I'm not ready to say it yet because Edson Barbosa has always had trouble with wrestlers, with grapplers. And Ilia Topuria is not Edson Barbosa. He may not be the same striker as Edson Barbosa, but he certainly is the much better grappler, and he does have big knockout power. He is the better striker, and he's ruthless. He's vicious. He goes in there for finishes. I think he's finished his last 3 fights. And Bryce Mitchell has had 3 decisions in a row. Now, if Bryce Mitchell can finish this by submission, I'll be happy. I want him to win. I think him winning would be really cool for the sport. It'd be awesome because I know that if Bryce Mitchell would ever become a champion, that would be like the biggest thing for America right now, because this is through thick and thin, a real American, like a real representation of, at least the Midwest America, right? Or, Southern Western America. He really is. He's got the camo shorts. I think that would be big. American fans don't really get behind their fighters that often because, America is such a fucking muddy, murky culture with everything. We got every fucking culture that there is. And so, the American identity is kind of being stripped away through a political lens. I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, Bryce Mitchell, if he becomes a champion, America is going to get behind this guy. And I'll be rooting for him because I like Bryce Mitchell and I like his style. He's like the underdog. He's training in Arkansas. He doesn't have the best, most prestigious team behind him. But I just think that Ilia Topuria is a little bit too polished. I think he's a nightmare matchup. And as much as I'd like to see Bryce Mitchell submit Ilia Topuria or ride him out to a decision, I'm going to pick Ilia Topuria. Now, if Ilia Topuria does not have that much success in the first round, if he's not hurting Bryce Mitchell in the first round, and he's really trying to, and he's trying to put it on him, I'm going to start to think maybe this is going to go in the favor of Bryce Mitchell. Because as I said, if this goes past 2.5 rounds, I think Bryce Mitchell may be able to take it. I think if it goes 3 rounds, Bryce Mitchell's winning that 3rd round. That's what I think. But I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria by KO. Man, my heart says Bryce Mitchell, but my mind says Ilia Topuria. Darren Till, Dricus to Plessis. I'm going to go with Dricus to Plessis. My heart says Darren Till, but my mind says Dricus to Plessis. Here's another thing, guys. I'm not counting Darren Till out. He is the better striker. But I just haven't seen that left hand knock anyone out at middleweight. I haven't seen him knock anyone out. And even when he was finishing guys on his come up, I mean, like, who is he just flatline KOing? Who is he just putting out? You know, Dricus to Plessis arguably has more power than Darren Till. Darren Till is the much better striker, but here's the thing. If he doesn't get the finish, if he doesn't get that classic finish that we all want him to get, you know, we all know what it would look like with that left hand, straight left hand down the pipe. If he doesn't get it, he doesn't throw enough strikes to be able to edge out a decision. He doesn't throw enough. And sure, maybe he can knock down Dricus to Plessis in round 1, maybe round 2. He can get a couple knockdowns and steal the fight that way. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think he's winning a decision. Dricus to Plessis has way more output. He has other options. And I think he will be able to take Darren Till down. I think he will be able to. I think he will. I haven't seen Darren training with Khamzat. And I hope he's able to take everything away from those training sessions with Khamzat, and I hope it's able to stick with him because, as I said, I want him to win. I want him to knock out Dricus to Plessis. Dricus has more options. He has much higher output. He has phenomenal kicking game. He has amazing kicks to the body, a lot of kicks to the legs, big power, unorthodox. He's able to mix it up. If he gets Darren to start thinking about the takedown, that can open up his hands. And if he gets Darren on the ground, I think it's over because Darren looks like a fish out of water on the ground. I'll be honest. But as I said, Darren Till doesn't throw enough volume to be able to get those rounds. If he's not landing those knockdowns, he just doesn't do enough. I'd love to see him throw more combos, but I just think that the world is too cold for Darren Till to win. And I hope that I get this one wrong. I'll say 90% of me hopes that I get this one wrong. 10% of me hopes that I think that maybe I want to see Dricus to Plessis wins just so I can get it right. So I don't have to have people clowning on me. But whatever. I want Darren to win, and if he wins, I'll be ecstatic. Because I don't really give a fuck about Dricus to Plessis. He's an exciting fighter to watch. I like watching him fight, but I can't really get behind him like that. You know, I'll root for Darren Till against everyone except for maybe Robert Whittaker. If he fought Alex Pereira, I'd root for Darren Till. Robert Whittaker is one of my favorite fighter at middleweight. You know, my 3 favorite fighters are Whittaker, Volkanovski, and Khamzat Chimaev. But Darren Till probably in my top 5. He just doesn't even deliver enough anymore. But he could get back up there. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Alex Morano. Damn. Alex Morano is a minus 380 favorite. How is that even possible? Because he's taking this on short notice. Santiago Ponzinibbio, you know, he's known about he was going to fight Robbie Lawler for a long time. He's been in training camp for a while. He's ready to go. This must be a glitch. I'm going to go with Santiago Ponzinibbio by decision. Alex Morano, I don't think he's getting this one done. I wasn't impressed by his last performance. I'm not a guy who's ready to say that he's going to beat Santiago Ponzinibbio. Santiago Ponzinibbio is a tough guy. I'm going to pick him to win this fight by decision. I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be a bit of a scrap. I really think it will be a scrap. Both of these guys love to strike. And Santiago Ponzinibbio, he was a killer on his come up, but then he got sick for a few years. He had to stop fighting, and now he's back, but he's a little older. He's lost a lot of size. He's now a smaller welterweight. Alex Morano is just, you know, one of those guys where he's never gonna be that great. So I'll go with Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now we get to Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon. I already said it. I think Paddy Pimblett's gonna finish him in the first round. I think he's gonna knock him out. He's the longer guy. He's got the longer reach. I think he has a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got much bigger power. Say what you want, but he has a decent chin. He was taking big shots off of Luigi Vendramini, and I'll say this time and time again. I think that this is Paddy Pimblett's easiest fight so far in his career. I think that Kazula Vargas had more power. I think Jordan Levitt is better than Jared Gordon on the ground. I think he's a more powerful grappler as well. Maybe he doesn't have the striking, but nonetheless, Paddy Pimblett's first opponent, I really think, was his toughest opponent. I'm going to be real. Maybe Jordan Levitt was tough in regards to the fact that, like, he has a ground game and he's tough to take down and he's tough to submit. And that really impressed me from Paddy Pimblett. And that's why I'm going to pick him to either submit Jared Gordon or finish him by knockout. I think he's going to get the knockout. He wants the knockout. He's saying that this has to be his coming out party, that this is going to be his first, like, really, really impressive performance that's going to really blow his stardom up. I hope so, because I'll be honest, guys, I don't think he's as big of a star as the UFC is projecting him to be, or even he is projecting himself to be, because I'm looking at these numbers that he's pulling, you know, with interviews on the Mac Life, on the ESPN MMA channel. He's getting like 100K views max on these interviews. He's got like 2 million followers. I get it. He's big in the UK. He's got a big following in the UK. But talk some shit at the press conference, please. We're an hour away from the press conference. I want him to talk shit. I want him to have a big moment, because otherwise he'll never really get that big, because he's not going to go that far. I think he'll be able to get ranked one day, and I think we'll be seeing Paddy Pimblett as a ranked fighter. I really do. I think he has the skills. I just don't think he'll get high in the rankings. Great submission game. But if you compare these numbers to McGregor's early numbers, or hell, even Till's numbers back in the day when Darren Till was giving his interviews back in the day, I mean, they're just not impressive. And it just shows to me that people aren't really caring that much about him. And I feel like his hype has gone like this after his debut. UFC London, it went like this. Jordan Levitt went like this. And then it's kind of just cruising. But I actually think his debut went like this. His UFC London, and then it started just cruising. I feel like it stayed here. And where are the numbers? Show me the Carfax. I can't see the proof that this guy's going to be a mega star. I just can't. And that's why I miss Conor, and I hope we have another guy like Conor who can really not only be an amazing trash talker, have an incredible personality, but also maybe make it to the belt one day. Because Sean O'Malley can maybe make it to the belt. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll become a champion, but maybe he can become a champion. It's just that he can't talk or form a sentence to save his life in front of a UFC press conference. And that's big, because that's what blew Conor up so much. So I think that Paddy Pimblett's going to finish him in the first round. He'll be able to take shots from Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon's not very dangerous. Jared Gordon tries to take him down, Paddy Pimblett will be able to get up or reverse it. So he's either getting submitted in the first round or he's getting knocked out in the first round. Pimblett has much more power. Jared Gordon doesn't have any finishing power. No finishes in the UFC. The UFC is throwing him a meatball down the middle, and they want him to hit it out of the park, and I think that's what he's going to do. So unless he trips on a banana peel, he's going to get the knockout. Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev, you know the deal. I think Jan Blachowicz is the better striker, but I think that Magomed Ankalaev is an underrated striker with a better ground game, who has the ability to mix it up, to take Jan down, to control him, to beat him up on the ground as well. Maybe he's not the biggest submission threat, but I don't think Jan Blachowicz is submitting Magomed Ankalaev off of his back. He's no Paul Craig. Sure, he's got big power, but he's getting older. I haven't seen a knockout from him in quite a while, since Dominic Reyes. That was an impressive knockout, by the way. I love Jan Blachowicz' style. I really like watching him strike. He's one of the best strikers in MMA, but people don't give him enough credit. People still don't give him enough credit for outstriking Adesanya, but that's just a testament to Adesanya also being a little bit overrated. Magomed Ankalaev is very underrated, to be honest. He's very underrated. He's got really fast kicks, but Jan Blachowicz has such a good defensive game for the kicks. He's so good at checking kicks, but Magomed Ankalaev is lightning fast. He's much faster than Jan Blachowicz. He's got a short reach. Something about these Dagestani guys, I saw MMA Guru mention it. They all have short arms, T-Rex arms. But I think Jan Blachowicz has a good chance, but I think it's like a 35% chance to maybe outstrike him or knock him out. I just think Magomed Ankalaev's too good. He's in his prime. He's well-rounded, and this guy is just destined to be champion. He has the skill set. He seems like a perfect fighter right now. I'm going to go with him by decision. Guys, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. What do you want to see go down in the press conference? Will I be able to upload this before the press conference? Or who knows, maybe I'll wait till Friday to upload it then, because I know as soon as I do upload it, the press conference will be starting any minute. So anyway, fuck it. I'll try to upload it right before the press conference so that, you know, the press conference always has some lag. It always says, oh, it'll start at, 8 p.m. Eastern. It doesn't start till 8:30. So maybe you guys will watch this, while you're waiting for the press conference. If you're seeing this before the press conference, let me know. Until next time.